Mark, this is the first time we've been able to talk to you since you were appointed RACA manager with the coronavirus pandemic and everything that's been going on. First things first, can I just ask you, how was your lockdown experience?
Firstly, I'd like to say welcome back and nice to see you. But outside of that, lockdown, gained a few stone, hasn't been the best for the weight, I'm afraid. I've done a lot of work from home and things like that, which has meant exercise has been limited. So to be honest with you, just buzzing to be back out there really, and obviously amongst people and some good lads, and just doing a bit of training and that. It's done wonders for the mental health. Actually, I know we don't touch on it all the time. It's not something we perhaps came here to talk about, but I'd just probably like to say that like a lot of people have probably struggled during that period and stuff, and the fact that we're all back out and we're back out together and stuff, really good. Kept in touch with a lot of people over lockdown, players past and present, and made sure they're all right and stuff like that, and it was really good to chat to some people, and we've come out the other end of it hopefully, and fingers crossed we're onto a recovery.
I think when it comes to the weight, I think we're all in the same boat. One over lockdown, these past few months have been hard.
Well, that t-shirt of yours is certainly tighter than the last time I've seen you, so it's not just me, I'm pleased.
Well, pre-season schedule's been announced, Mark.
Yeah.
We've got 8 games in the 3.5 weeks, I think it is.
More like 4, I think. Yeah. But yes, you're right. It's a tight schedule out there. So I know a few people have probably thought like, oh, is that a bit too much and stuff like that? But we've had sort of 30 odd guys training, so we need to have a look at people. There's people here who, new signings who I haven't seen a great deal of, and certainly haven't seen them in amongst the lads. So what little training we've been able to do isn't enough to make a judgment of a player, or some players look really good in training, but we actually need to see them. So, the intention for example, next week is we've got 2 games, but it'll be almost 2 separate squads. We'll take a squad to put on Wednesday, and we'll take a different squad up to Bullock on the Saturday. So in theory, yes, it's 8 games on paper under the name of Ryton, but different players will be playing different games. So it's not as simple as like, taking the same players to 8 games in 4 weeks. That would be too much. So that's the thinking behind it. A couple of new coaches on board this year, which I'm sure we'll talk about, but those 2 guys need to see the players as well and get an understanding, because we've set out new systems that we want to try and adapt to from last year. So we've got a lot to try, and I don't want to say force upon the players, we've got a lot to do in a short space of time. So we need these games to be able to do that.
You're well known around the club. You've been here for a couple of years now as a coach under Tony last season. Yeah. You've now got your chance to dip your toe in the big pond. You've got managerial credentials of your own. You've managed Hazelrig on a Sunday. You've managed Newcastle Blue Star. How do you think the experience managing them clubs can help you make the transition to the Northern League?
Okay. I'd say the one thing that has served me well, and I'll not sit here and pretend to be a better tactical coach than anybody else that I'll play against this year, or whatever it might be. But there's certain skill sets that you need to be a good manager, and I've had experience, and whether it be at the same level, it's not. But ultimately, experience of dealing with people are the same, no matter what level they go to. Yeah, there might be different types of personality, but the one thing I think I've got on my side is I'm 34 and I've done 13 years of management now, so I've got a little bit behind us to a bit of an understanding of how to manage people, and realistically at this level, managing people is as hard as any of the parts. So I feel confident and comfortable in this environment. Yes, there's a element, definitely, I don't mind admitting that, of like perhaps not knowing some of the named players who have been around this level for a long time, because they're not players I've came into contact with at the levels I've worked at, because this is as high as I've worked, but it's still an understanding of people. So if you speak to a player, or you sign a player, and how you treat that player, all that kind of things, where I think we'll get it right as a club, and the group I've put around us is very much to do that.
In terms of you mentioned the group that you put around you there. Yeah. Obviously you were part of the backroom staff last season. Yeah. What's going to be your makeup for this season?
Yeah, so obviously I'm in there with obviously Chris is staying, who was, I suppose, a goalkeeper coach, but to be fair to Chris, he's got a lot of badges, a lot of experience. He's worked with some pro clubs, so Chris has got a lot of good background in football, and hoping to tap into his knowledge to perhaps improve the training environment, and change it a little bit. And if we're talking about how we're going to change the style a little bit, then we need good training to be able to do that. And so far, throughout the little bit of training we've done, and the lockdown training, when we first came back, socially distanced, Chris has put some great ideas over, so he's definitely staying as far as I can see, so that's great. And then I've added in a lad called Connor. Connor was with us at Blue Star. Connor came into Blue Star and sort of freshened up the coaching side, because I would very much sit as a manager, not a coach as such. I can do a coaching session, but my strong points, in my opinion, is being a manager. So he brings in a wealth of experience as a coach. He's really, really good at what he does. I've seen him firsthand. And we've brought in another lad called Luke at the moment, who's actually moving to Argentina in the long run, but he's for the foreseeable while he's here. He's getting some experience with it, and again, he's a well-qualified coach who's got lots of good ideas, and it's about their personalities as well. So Chris has got a different tact maybe to Connor, do you see what I mean? So it's like that dynamic is really good between them, and we've got a really good setup for the players, and from what I've seen so far, the players are thriving with it, so it's good.
One player who did leave mark this summer was Scott Jasper. He was club captain, he was an influence in the dressing room. Have you got any ideas who your captain's going to be? Is it set in stone yet, or are you thinking about that over the pre-season?
I think we need to get a squad signed on first over, but on a serious note, like there's a few contenders of the existing group, obviously some experienced players here, as you've touched on there. I would say that there's for instance, Callum Turnbull is going into his 10th season here. He's currently doing sort of what I'd call a club captain's role, a bit more than like a captain, where he's doing off-field stuff and he's looking after our players' pool and stuff like that. So like we've already got somebody ready-made if needs be, but we've just got to have a look at pre-season and see how people are together on the pitch and see who stands out for that role. I know we're talking about it, Scott was a real leader in terms of energy and the way that he played the game, but there's other qualities that leaders can have, so we have to assess who sort of shows the signs over them next few weeks to suggest that they're stepping up to the plate to be that replacement.
And last season, Mark, we had a pretty good season, we had a good cup run, we were near the top end of the table. In terms of this season, what would you consider a success? What's the goal for RACA this season?
I think at this level that's possibly the hardest question you're going to ask us, and I can't sit here. I'm certainly not going to be negative and say, oh, you know what, if we avoid relegation it'll be a success. It wouldn't be after the last 3 years with Tony and the way that the squad's built and the club's built. Honestly don't know what other teams are looking like, you know. I know allotment have retained majority of their squad from last year, so again I would expect them to be strong, you know, red card the same, and all the usual suspects. To sit here and give you a realistic outcome of how this is going to pan out, I really can't answer your question. I know it's sitting on the fence, but I really can't say what will be a good season yet. I think it's probably best you ask us again in an interview, maybe after 6 or 10 games of the season, and we'll revisit it and we'll know a bit more about how the league's shaping up, and then I can probably tell you a bit better. But for us, we'll just work as hard as we can to make this club as successful as possible, and that's the best I can say.
As always, Mark, it's been a pleasure. Cheers for a few words and good luck for the rest of the season.
No problem.
I would shake your hand, but we'll give you one of them.
We'll have an elbow.